Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, people. Slightly different format today. We don't have the high-pitched introduction from Jurins as normal.
Mm.
The boss man is taking a vacation today, but we have a wonderful episode with Nathaniel, Messiah, and Espin, a powerlifter who powerlifts once in a while,
Wow.
and obviously myself. So hopefully it's a good one, and hopefully you guys enjoy it. So, boss man, how is it going? How are you feeling
I don't
today?
think Nathaniel got the credit he deserved there. You didn't even introduce him to his new title.
Bro,
Man,
every
I
single
was gonna let
person
you. I
knows.
was gonna let you say it. I was
what we
gonna.
doing?
All right, let's
I'm gonna
go.
say it.
So, okay, so
This is why Duran does
IPF.
this, not you.
Yeah, this is the last time you're doing this because
Hey, I'm doing coffee, man. I'm still trying to recover. All right, so
take
we're
two.
talking IPF world champion, European
Junior,
world
people get
champion,
annoyed. People get annoyed.
juniors. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
obviously. IPF junior world champion, European junior world champion, European champion, GB
Brits.
2 times,
No, only once. I lost last
one
year.
time,
Only once. Once is all we need.
and then also box.
I came second. Dapo beat me. Don't know why.
Wow.
You know, they you, so did Bucks used to also be a junior comp? Did it used to?
Box was always a weird one. Box never had an age limit because I remember I watched that meet and the chat was I felt sorry for Dapo
Because, bro,
because
like
people were going in on him.
Dapo was the senior British
Yeah.
champion that year, then decides to ruin all of our little 18, 90-year-old dreams at the age of 24 and do Bucks. So if he didn't do it, I would have won. But I
Oh my
came
days.
second, and I was over the moon with that result. To be fair, so big up Dapo. To
Yeah.
be fair,
I
but
actually
Box.
remember
I
I
did
actually
box.
remember the
Yeah.
video that you did on YouTube when you put the camera with Dapo and you was like, oh, so this is the guy that deadlifts.
yeah,
I think at that point it was like 350, I think it was.
yeah, but he failed more than that multiple times, and
He attempted
so
360,
crazy.
365.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was deadlifting crazy then. And in fact, the deadlift record that I got, I'm actually a little bit lucky because if not for COVID, I think he might have been able to get that. And he messaged me about like that. He was like, that was the record he was going for. But I think
Mhm.
maybe 2020 or 2021 would have been his last year. And because of COVID, didn't manage to get it. But listen, life happens in it. I managed to scoot that record up for GB. Is what it is, isn't it?
Carry on, man. He's ways. Carry on. You've done your thing.
But
But yeah,
yeah,
no. Box never had a age limit at all. Box used to be open, so you would get literally like 30-year-olds, 28 PhD students just rock up
yeah,
for competitions.
that is
Yeah,
outrageous in my opinion. But
yeah.
it is what it is.
But it is what it is. So let's get into it. But before we start talking about IPF Worlds, let's talk about the journey because you uploaded that Instagram reel talking about your journey from the beginning to the end. What's your journey been like? Because it's been a relatively short
Yeah.
span of time, but you've accomplished so much within that time. So take us back from the beginning to now. How has it been?
Okay. Do you want me to go from the beginning of like social media type stuff or the beginning of when I started like powerlifting?
We've kind of heard the story about how you go into powerlifting, but it would be nice just to do a little recap because
Recap.
honestly, you are a world champion right now. And
Yeah.
I think one thing that's very important is because I was listening to a podcast and it was saying don't take advice from successful people because the advice they normally tend to give is at the stage they're at now.
Yeah.
Right. So when you've made it, you're talking about how you fine tuning your nutrition, how you're trying to get your 9 hours of sleep, blah 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 blah. But people really will benefit from hearing about your struggles and your progress from the beginning when
Yeah.
people were doubting you as an actual power lifter, when you had to balance the social media, we're trying to figure out training, you know, that whole and also I know there was the whole little bit of the university story timeline that happened
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
So
I'll
give
touch
so
on all
when
those
yeah
quickly.
when people look at your journey, how did the journey start? So that
Okay.
they can reference that for themselves.
All right. So I'll just quick overview on the first beginning bit because I spoke about it already. So I started YouTube in 2017, nothing to do with fitness. I actually started with hair videos. And around about that same time, I also started the gym and I was about 14 years old at that time. So continue doing this and with like very little traction. I did get to about 2,000 subscribers on YouTube, but I wasn't like getting tons of views or anything like that. And then in 2019, so in London, obviously, that's where the majority of my followers are. The number one video that they know me from is nothing to do with fitness as well. It is in 2019, I did my GCSEs and I managed to get all nines in them, right? Which for like Americans are people or like older people watching is like all like A star stars in everything basically. And that video went viral. Schools played it in their schools, everything like that. So people know me from that video. And that video, weirdly, is what kickstarted my fitness career, because that video getting traction brought traction to my other videos. And I had tons of other fitness videos and stuff on my channel. And it was kind of like a snowball effect. And then I got traction from there and kind of built off of that. So after that point, I continued with that. And then the next year, I became, at the time, the youngest Gymshark athlete. I was 17 and I got sponsored by Gymshark. So I continued this, and at this time, I'm in sixth form, which again, for any Americans watching, is like your final 2 years of high school. But in the UK, we kind of separate a bit. So I'm in sixth form. I'm posting content. I'm in sixth form. I'm doing not powerlifting, but I am the videos that would get most traction for me were like my 1 rep maxes, because I was always like a particularly talented deadlifter. At 16, I hit 260 kilos, 17, 300. Bear in mind, these were on deadlift bar. I'm probably not comp standard, but
bumpers and everything. But it's fine. Weight is weight.
It's the journey.
Yeah.
And at 18, I hit 320 kilos. All right. So throughout this process, even though I'm not doing powerlifting, what people know me for is strength and etc. But I wasn't competing. So bring this to like the end of sixth form now, when I start university. I go to Loughborough University, which people know is like a really sporty university. So if you're not already doing a sport, you kind of get encouraged to do a sport, whether it's at the not professional level, but for the uni level, or even a society or something like that, right? So I go there, and because at this point, within I think 2 weeks of starting university, I hit 100,000 subscribers. So I was known by this point. People liked me. Should start powerlifting, to join the team. So I try out for the team. I do that. And then I do a qualifier comp, and I then do British University Championships. This is in 2022. So I do this, and come second, which was a huge result. Again, beat by Dapo, who was the senior British champion in the 93s. And weirdly, after this, I actually didn't want to powerlift very much anymore, because it was so much pressure for me at that time. I had all the pressure from again, over 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, people with all these expectations, etc. And my following, who's a bit more general, so they don't necessarily understand powerlifting. I just found it hard at that point, and I probably wasn't mature enough. So then I go back to my little influence and stuff I'm doing. Obviously, I'm working with Gymshark, this, that, and the other. And then 2022, into that academic year, into 2023, I decided to take a year out of uni. So in this year out of uni, bear in mind, this entire time I've been used to balancing social media with either school or university or etc. I'm looking for something to kind of almost fill this void, and also gear my content towards something. Because yes, I was a fitness influencer, but I was more of like a vlogging influencer. So my content revolved around what I was doing at that particular time. So again, this was school, this was university. Now I've dropped out of university. It's like, what's this going to be? So did we get to January 2023 now? January 2023, I go to a little My Protein event, and I meet Joey Shaw for the first time. And he basically tells me what people in powerlifting think of me, which isn't like massive, like they didn't really take me seriously, basically. More just like an influencer, that type of stuff, right? And people have heard this story a million times, but this is how it started. So after that, my closest friend that did powerlifting was CJ Lindsay, and he was coached by Owen from EST. So I shout Owen the next day, and we do a consultation call. And it's funny, he actually tracked it from that call till I won Junior World Championships was 591 days. 591 days from the first consultation call to world champion. And in that, like the application form, I was talking about how like I wanted to become maybe like one of the top lifters in the UK and see. And my main motivation for it at that time was that I didn't want to look back on it and be like, I could have been one of the top lifters like in the country, etc. And I never have done it because I didn't apply myself. So I thought, all right, cool, this is the time to apply myself. So last year, do another qualifier comp, do junior nationals. And obviously for selections, typically speaking, they'll take 2 per weight class if they can. So if you want to be in international selection, you got to come top 2. So I didn't quite make this. I came 3rd last year, which was a little bit of a setback. But I knew on that day that Nathan probably wasn't going to do Euros and Jack probably wasn't going to do Worlds. Those are the 2 guys that beat me. So there was still a good chance I was going to make it, but I wasn't confirmed. Then in May, they do a selection, and I get confirmed for World Championships and European Championships. Because again, either one of those guys didn't want to do either one. And now doing that, I see exactly why. Because this year I sacked off Euros, right? So I then go into World Championships, and last year, again, I'm a known influencer, but I'm not necessarily known in the powerlifting world. Like even when I went to Worlds last year, people would say smaller platforms than me, but were known in powerlifting, like, you know, Hamza, Demir. they were getting stopped more at Worlds than I was because powerlifters know these guys. Do you know what I mean? And they don't know me like I haven't done any big international comps yet. So this trickled down into the like pre-competition talk. There wasn't, outside of GB, there wasn't a whole lot of talk about me at all because people didn't know about me. And in the nominations, I was 8th. So again, not huge expectations. But the GB guys, I remember Duran's talking about it and saying that he thought that I could possibly even beat Nathan at this comp. But outside of that, not much talk. So I go into Worlds ranked 8th. And last Worlds, we're going to talk about this in terms of how the level increased from last year to this year, in all honesty. But last Worlds for a lot of the top guys,
it's massive.
Absolute stinker. Absolute stinker. So that plus me doing well meant that I ended up coming 3rd, which was a huge result for me. Bear in mind, I was nominated 8th. And this then
but kind of... Just to stop you there, though, you do realize that 800 kilo total, you know, you've mentioned Dapple, right?
Yeah.
Dapple was massive in GB for breaking 800 kilos total, like breaking into the 800s as a 93. It was such a huge thing. And you're talking about within your first year and a bit, you totaled 802.5 in that competition, but you think it was still a stinker of a comp.
It wasn't a stinker for me. It was a stinker for the top guys because, say, no offense to him, Yulong Lee, for example, came in with a
Swedish lifter
kilo nomination. At a weird ass comp, in all honesty, because when you go on open powerlifting, there is one attempt of each lift. It's so weird.
It might just be because they don't have the documentation for the full lift, so they just have his final lift.
Either way, 830 kilo nomination, and I think he does 790. Shane Nutt was, I think, nominated 2nd. I think he does under 800 also. Nathan, who won, if you were to ask him about that comp outside of winning, he wasn't happy. He did 815 at nationals and then 810 to win Worlds. So that's why. And then aside from that, purely statistically, of the 27 lifters, only 9 got their final deadlifts. So that is a stinker. 9 out of 27. That's what I mean by that. But obviously, that's the thing about powerlifting. It doesn't necessarily matter what you come into the competition with. It matters what you do on that day. So I managed to do my best that day, and that resulted in me coming 3rd, which initially put my name on the map, but I still didn't feel like I was fully established, because I remember in like the King of the Lifts podcast talking about it afterwards, they still didn't really know me like that. Like Amelia talked about me, but the other guys didn't really know me like that. And I felt like they kind of almost brushed me off, bearing in mind the fact that I had just come 3rd. So that was a little bit like, all right, cool, I'm going to use this into Europeans. So I do Europeans the next month and I win. And that was big for me, other than just winning European championships, because I managed to beat Jack Hopkins, who was like the guy. Like, he beat me at nationals. I beat him at Bucks, but that's because he bombed out. Like, he was the guy, and I managed to beat him there. So after winning that Europeans, that properly solidified me as like a real powerlifter, because winning any international within your first year of properly, like, that was my first year having a coach. That really put my name on the map. And obviously off the back of that, with Arnold's this year, that you did, Mo, and Ade did, Sanchez did. So I get asked to do the Arnold's, and this kind of started the saga for this year, which was me absolutely mucking up the beginning of the year and having to do that little comeback story. And we'll probably touch on Arnold's as well. But I decided to do the Arnold more or less just for the reason of you're able to break world records at the Arnold. So I was close-ish to the deadlift world record, and I thought, you know what, before Worlds, I'm gonna have a crack at it. Now this did not go to plan. I failed. And not only this, at the Arnold, right? The Arnold. So obviously, you're talking about, as I said, Owen, from the first call to winning world championships was 591 days, all right? So I had to do a lot of growing up, a lot of maturing as a person and a lifter in this short span of time in order to facilitate this. And the Arnold, I think, was an enormous catalyst for this, because you guys were all having the meets of your life. Bear in mind that you're already the top open lifters, right? And not only this, I was looking at you guys, and like even you, Mo, not even you, but like you were able to like play to the crowd, be a showman, stuff like that. And I wasn't at that point ready, able to do that, because you know when you're so nervous and like locked in on a lift, it was like, come on the platform, come off. I had no ability to like get the crowd or be a showman, that type of stuff, right? I wasn't there yet. And just seeing you open guys like having sick meets and me not having a great meet, bear in mind, I'm doing this competition with you guys. That was a big like reality check, you know, because some guys can get wrapped into this kind of junior bubble of powerlifting. I think that even plays into why some guys fall out of powerlifting after juniors, because they get used to being the top guy and etc. But you could still be 50, 60 kilo away from the open guy. So that comp really made me level up. And I remember you came to me after the comp. Me and Joey were standing there. You looked at Joey and said, "You need to increase your squat and you need to increase your bench." You looked at me and said, "You need to increase your bench," right? So I was like, "All right, cool. I'll take, like, you're a person that I'll take criticism from, you know." And you've been telling me like you need to do more bodybuilding, that kind of stuff. You need to grow your calves, which I still haven't done. But Mo was laying it on. Mo had a good day, yeah. So he was laying it on thick that day. So yeah, so I do the Arnold, and then a week later is Junior Nationals. Yeah, so I failed the deadlift world record. My body is destroyed. When I say like, failing a deadlift is one thing, but failing a deadlift that, in all honesty, you didn't have a chance at, I feel like takes more from your body than your body even has, because you're not able to do that lift. Like Nonso, say for example, after his 411, he was telling me he was finished, he was cooked. And my 357, I felt, when you, like, for me, a conventional guy, when you fail a deadlift below the knees, you had no chance. Yep. So your body is cooked after that point. So I do,
because the legs are gone, the lower back would have kicked in at some point, also gone. Like your CNS is fried.
Conventional, if you can't make it past the knees, bruv, like you might as well have not done the lift. Yeah. So, but it's still gonna destroy you. So I try my best to rehab that week. I was doing like cold shower, I was getting massage, I was going sauna. Couldn't save me. So one of the reasons I did the Arnold was because I knew that Junior Nationals the next week, I didn't have much competition. So it wasn't like a lot of pressure going into it, but I still wanted to show up, and I didn't manage to do that either. Bear in mind, the Arnold, my second attempt on deadlifts was 342.5 kilos, and then I went for 357.5. At Nationals, for the British record, I failed 343.5. I failed my squat earlier that day as well, missed my second bench. So my total that day had gone from 812 at the Arnold to, I think, 792 at Nationals. We still managed to win it, but I was like devastated. So after that, I actually took like a bit of a confidence hit. Like I thought I was invincible before that, and that proved I wasn't. So I remember like the first end of block deadlift I did after that was the first time I had like nerves, like, wow, can I actually do this? Because I just taken 2 very public L's, and it's like, I've got to now come back from this. Do you know what I mean? So slowly built my confidence back up, and then going into Worlds, I had to kind of balance, you know, that kind of confidence issue, which wasn't too much of an issue as time went on, because I built that back quite quickly. But then also I had new challenges coming in, and guys from before, like Rico, who was already there, got injured, come back now, to where it's looking like these guys are stronger than me. And we can touch on like how Worlds went, all that type of stuff. I know we're going to talk about that. But yeah, that's the saga pretty much up until World Championships this year.
So I've got 2 questions that I want to delve into with you. First of all is, I know you've referenced the whole people doubting you as being an actual lifter, and then as soon as you met CJ, you rang up Owen Street and said, I want to take this seriously. What would you say has been your main driver for pushing? Because powerlifting, one thing a lot of people say about powerlifting, it's a very simple sport, but in terms of it's repetitive. There's no fancy football tricks. There's no teamwork. It's same in, same out, repeat, numbers go up slightly. So what has been your main motivation for keeping up with training and pushing yourself to the standard that you've achieved so far?
Well, first of all, I've just always enjoyed it. Like even prior to powerlifting, just the idea of going for 1 rep maxes, getting stronger on your lifts, that's what makes training fun for me. Like, and I see a lot of my friends that have just simply focused on bodybuilding, they fall out of love with it. And if you're not competitive, it gets so boring. I think having an analytical approach to training and focusing on your numbers is one of the only ways to actually make it fun. So that's one of the main things. I just enjoy it. Secondly, I almost feel like, not a calling, but it's like I clearly have gifts. Yeah, I have like, I'm good at power. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, I feel like if you have a gift, it's then your responsibility to cultivate that and grow that. So that's kind of, I guess, part of it as well. And then also from a purely social media monetary perspective, those are the things that recently have gave me the most traction. So there's also a financial incentive to continue it, which I'm lucky for, because obviously if I had not had like my previous sponsors and stuff like that, it may not have been the case. So that's another thing as well. But yeah, powerlifting is obviously really repetitive, can be quite boring and monotonous, but I think I kind of thrive with that. And it kind of gives you a bit of like routine. You know what you're doing. Every 4 weeks is planned, programmed, and it gives your kind of life a bit of routine. And just kind of, exactly.
That's good then. That's good. Yeah, that makes sense, because I think that's one thing I'll probably relate to and say I enjoy powerlifting, and I think most successful powerlifters enjoy the numbers game.
Yeah.
So it's not, you don't have to come to the gym and you do an arm session and you think, oh, my arm still looks small, which I think nerfs a lot of bodybuilders. It's, I have this set number to hit. All I need to focus on is prepare myself to progress week to week to week and see what happens. My second question is, now that I'm actually seeing, so you're mentioning you missed 2 deadlifts, you took a public L as a junior for deadlift. When I was a junior, I was pretty sure there was about 5 competitions. I always missed my 3rd squat. Right. I feel like there's been a sudden shift in the level, because now when I was a junior, bloody hell, I'd be lucky if I got 200 views on my Instagram reel, right? Because it wasn't such a big thing.
We went reels when you were a junior, bro.
Oh yeah, it was videos in it.
It was just posts. Just stories. Not even stories.
Videos.
Just posts.
Just square videos.
Oh, man.
But it was never, and I remember I used to post anime content, bro. I'll be doing One Piece reference. I didn't really care. But with the new era of juniors, there's a pressure that comes with the fan base you guys already have, right? It's like when you're going for a competition, it's almost like it's a pressure in the sense of, yes, you're the big guy in the juniors, but if you compete in the open, you no longer look like the big guy to your fans. And do you think that's a thing that a lot of juniors are now having to deal with? Because really the juniors in powerlifting are leading the social media game. You guys are pushing it really, really hard. But are you now also putting a lot of pressures on yourself and almost starting to nerf yourself and being scared of competition rather than being excited to compete and get better?
Okay, so I think that would be the case if not for the fact that juniors are starting to level up to the point where we're pushing the open guys.
We will talk about that also another bit, but the juniors are also progressing ridiculously.
So that's another thing. So I now am not worried, really. Not to say I'm not worried about when I get to the open, but I do think I can be a competitive open guy and push the top open guys. Maybe not on the world stage just yet, because I'm not at 900, but we're going to touch on this as well in terms of what my future plans are as far as weight class and etc. But even say as far as Christian, my total that I just did at Worlds prior to this year was higher than Christian's best total. He done 860 at this recent competition, yeah, but that's 14 and a half more than my total. And I now think that if I was in a competition with Christian, I could win. So that level of competition with me in terms of my fans and etc., I'm not worried about anymore, because I feel like I'm at that level. I remember I made a reel last year talking about how like I was the best powerlifter going, like junior powerlifter going into that year or whatever. And some people thought that Christian was gonna have a problem with it or something like that. And he spoke to me and he was like, he doesn't have a problem with it. And partially also as well because he knows that there's still quite a gap between me and him, which there was at that point, but there's not anymore. So that's where I think that I'm like, cool. Like do you know what I mean? I'm here. So
you're ready for it.
That's why I think is the changes with a lot of the juniors. Because yeah, like if we were only focused on like junior powerlifting and like we couldn't have any aspirations as far as open because we're way too far away from the numbers. And yeah, we kind of have to stick to it and we need to be mindful of, you know, if I was scared about that, I wouldn't have done the Arnold. Because when I did the Arnold, I was also going against 2 GB kind of top 93s.
William was also there.
William Pickering,
and Adam Fuller, yeah,
he didn't have a good day, but Fuller was there, and I beat Fuller and technically beat Pickering. Obviously, he didn't finish.
He left.
Yeah, I beat both of those guys, the Arnold. So this is not me being cocky or anything like that, but I feel like as a competitor, you need to. I'm like a facts and figures type of guy. So if I know that I'm 15 kilos away from GB's best ever total in the 93s, why wouldn't I think that I can do that? Do you know what I mean? Or beat Christian at an next comp, you know? And I think the open guys are starting to see. I think the open guys are starting to know that as well. Because look at some of their approaches to Nonso. I'm not going to say names, But some guys now don't even want to see Nonto's content. They don't even want to look at him because they know he's coming. They know he's coming. So these guys don't even want to see him. And he's a first-year junior.
Nigerians will love to say this is an open space.
This is a safe space. We can say names
Nah,
if we want. It's fine.
Listen, if the shoe fits, innit? If the shoe fits. But I'm saying some of these guys, rightly so, are looking at Nonto like, yo, this guy's gonna take everything that I work for, and he's 19. So
first year in the junior, fresh,
but fresh, sub-junior,
bouncing baby.
What's crazy is though is that like
no mustache on his face yet. No hair,
bro. No hair is wild.
That's what I mean. Good hairline.
It's still there. Don't worry, I'll take it. Why I studied engineering. I keep on telling people, right? I've got a timeline. It's me 6'4", looking fine boy, no pimples, everything's fresh. First year of engineering, I visited the ACS Bowl. You know ACS?
Yeah.
It's the African Caribbean Society. My hairline, after 3 months of engineering, has already started going in. There's then update. There's final undergrad. It's starting to look like a myth. Masters, that thing is gone.
Forget about it. Oh god. No, but you're still got you still got that, man. You look good with a bald head, man. You're
leave me alone, bro. When the camera shines the wrong way.
Black guy, bald head, beard combo, you're calm.
You gotta need to go to beard. That's the
I think if you didn't have the beard, it would be a bit of a sticky one though.
Yeah, more if you had no beard, it'd be so long. So long, man.
Oh my days.
Oh shit. Speaking about pressure, right? You don't feel pressure though, do you? Like honestly, you like, and what confuses me the most though is that to a normal
but to be fair, is it you don't feel pressure or you thrive in that sort of environment? You enjoy it?
I mean, Mo.
Wait, let me let Espen finish this question.
I'm going to briefly, I was going to answer that. But what I was going to say is, Mo, the guy pressure is nothing to him. Because look, this is why I say this, right? I was just quickly going on your Instagram just to see exactly how many followers you got. 179,000 followers. Mo, deep this, right? He's got 179,000 followers. The guy done a backflip after his third deadlift. Could you imagine if that gone horribly wrong?
It's okay. I said Kristen will certify this because we were it's youth. Don't worry. Very soon that backflip will just be stuck in the air. You won't be landing it. Because there was all the junior lifters for some reason. Me and Kristen went the warm-up because we did obviously Manchester Open. Another 105, young guy. Doing the warm-ups, my man was doing side kicks, leg kicks, athletic full warm-up, jump, squats, everything. Me and Kristen were there just started looking at her like, okay, come, innit? Let's see how long it lasts.
Oh man. But now to answer Espen's question, yeah, I feel the pressure. I feel it. This world, if you were to it's an internal thing. So if you were to ask people around me, they'll be like, this is the most calm Nathaniel's been. He's like, seems not fazed by it. Inside, I was dying. I was absolutely dying for days leading up to weeks. Because also you got to realize as well, obviously, yes, you got the pressure from my followers, yeah. But you also have the pressure of the competition and the fact that, remember, I'm a 93, right? So I feel like the 93s will always be an incredibly competitive weight class. So I'm going into this world, yeah, as guys walking down the street or guys I seen in the gym, I'm like, oh yeah, you're going to win, da, da, da. I'm like, bro, I could come fourth. I'm fourth in nominations. So you got Brandon Jones, Aiden Roder, Rico Baden, and then me. So if things were to play out analytically how they're supposed to, I'm fourth, bruv. No medal, going Malta for no reason. Do you know what I mean? So I remember sitting in bed and it like woke me up in my seat, like, bruv, what if I go to Malta and come fourth? Like, what? But then in terms of what you're saying with feeling the pressure, I do think it's what Mo says in terms of that I thrive under the pressure. And I think that it is, but it's been a thing where that has developed. And I think things like the Arnold, things like Nationals have cultivated that because it's like, I've now seen what it's like to fail, all right? So I'm not as scared of failure because I've done it before. And then, so you see the moment of the deadlift and I do the backflip, right? I can't lie, I did gymnastics growing up. I know I have a backflip in my locker. Even if I was drunk, I could do a backflip, yeah? So that was no problem. But I said to people, if I fail with a backflip, I'll post it anyway. I'll post it anyway. But what I'm proud about is not the backflip. It is, if you guys see the video, it is when I come up for the deadlift and I've got my arms out like this, yeah? That is what I am more proud about because I'm looking at it like the fact that I had that composure and that confidence to start jesting to the crowd prior to even doing the lift. Bear in mind, this is 5 kilos above the world record, and this is to become junior world champion, the biggest lift of my life without question. And I'm able to jest to the crowd, hype up the crowd, and afterwards, you see, prior to the backflip, when I did deadlift, I had no reaction. No reaction. I just take off my belt, look at the lights, and then I do the backflip, and then I explode. I start moving mad. That was that. But that was like a culmination of the fact that that moment was something that I genuinely dreamed about for months, almost borderline a year. At the Arnold, if I would have got that world record, I would have done a backflip. I'd already planned it. Yeah, I'd already planned it. But I had a criteria. I said I need to break the world record and become world champion, because I feel like if I did one of those two, I can still potentially have a bigger moment. But now, unless I win the Open, there's no bigger moment. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like the IPF has seen that as well, because they posted of all the world records, mine was the only one that was an edited up video. Then they posted the last 30 seconds of the highlights, then the front picture of the next day, then Alico Sport posted it. Like it's obviously it's gone everywhere. So
I'm Just Bait posted it as well.
I'm Just Bait posted it. Stormzy reposted my TikTok of me, Manson, and Nonso. Like it's just gone everywhere. Do you know what I mean?
That's good, man.
No, it's gone nuts. It's gone nuts.
Sick, man.
But like, yeah, so obviously, yeah, there's all that pressure not going into it. But I just, for some reason, before those last deadlifts, I just had a calm just come over me. It was weird. And in spite of what was going on, because I don't know if you guys seen the vlog, but you also don't see it properly in the vlog. I was cramping disgustingly before that. On my 270 warm-up, yeah, I do it, then my whole body locks. You can see my quad cramp. It looks nasty, yeah? And I fall over. Callie Johansson is in the back. He's looking at me like, what's going on? Owen's looking at me like, what's going on? People like, it looked like I'd popped a hammy or something. But I hadn't. It was just really bad cramps, yeah? So Jason is rubbing Abaniki on me and Then I go out.
We were just talking about that as well.
That's the first time I used that. It's a godsend.
First time you've used it? First time you've used the Abaniki bomb?
I used it one time before, yeah, but not for like this is the first time where it's like, no Abaniki, I'm cooked. I'm done.
Your mom's definitely used it when you were a baby. Don't worry about it.
Vapor rub, yeah, but is it slightly different?
Oh, okay, fair enough then. Abaniki bomb is the old one fixo in Nigeria.
It's DP on steroids, man. That shit is fucking powerful, bro.
If you've got a baby that's crying too loud, slap a Abaniki bomb. If the baby's got increase, slap a Abaniki bomb.
So wait. So let me play this deadlift because we'll touch on the whole comp, yeah. But just to touch out on the deadlifts, right? So I cramp like I've never cramped in my life on the 270. Looks like I've torn a hammy, yeah. Then Jason rubs Abaniki on me, yeah. My quads and my bum were cramping, but obviously you weren't going to rub it on my bum, so that wasn't happening, yeah. So I got to affirm that. So then I do
if he told you can get 370, would you let him?
Yeah, it's not about me letting him. He's a proud man. He's not doing that. He's not rubbing no junior's bum. Do you know what I mean? He's not doing that. So I would have to call my girlfriend or something like, yo, please, it's got to happen. And yeah, so I do my 300 last warm up, and as I'm walking around after that, I'm cramping. So not badly, but I can feel it when I'm stepping. So on my 300, I'm not sure if I can fully. You know how I deadlift? I like push into the floor really hard. I like wedge in. I'm not even sure if I can fully do that. So it's a tiny bit hesitant. Then I got for my 320, and I think I'm still ever so slightly hesitant. Because I've still been cramping. So I do the 320, it's fine, yeah? Then on the 347, I walk out and I shout. As I shout, my lat cramps, yeah? So I do this to try and shake it off, but I have to do my 347 basically with a cramped lat, yeah? And it still moved good. So I go out to the back, and in between my 347 and my 360, my lat is non-stop cramping, non-stop. And I'm panicking. I'm like, Owen, it's still cramping. Owen, it's still cramping. So I think he was massaging it, rubbing more Abaniki in it, massaging it. And then maybe minutes before the 360, it stops. And then it's like, all right, we're live. Do you know what I mean? Then obviously you guys know what happened. But that was like, but I still feel like I don't even know how I was able to have that composure in that moment. But when I'm deadlifting and stuff, I think it has to come from a place of confidence and like calmness, because I still also feel like at the Arnold and stuff, I got too hyped up. I was too immature. And that's why I feel like the Arnold was such a good learning process for me, because it helped me to mature as a powerlifter. So when I go out for that, I know that if I do what I need to do and I do my setup, I get it right, I'm pulling 360. And obviously the way 360 moved, if 367 was on the bar, I would have moved it. Do you know what I mean? The way that 360 moved. What do you guys think I had that day?
It looked infinite.
Yeah, that deadlift,
No,
man.
no,
You had a lot
no
more on that
sticking
deadlift.
point. The lockout was faster than off the floor.
Yeah.
But there's one
that lockout
thing.
was quick.
There's one thing I tell people all the time is you're a natural deadlifter and it's your strongest lift, right? It's as a deadlifter, the last thing you ever want to have in your head is doubt as to whether or not you can move the weight. Because once you have that, it doesn't move. There's nothing you can do. You can't, and most times you see people shout to hype themselves up for it because they're trying to convince themselves that they can do the weight.
I'm not doing that.
You know yourself when you approach that bar, you will get it.
So
And then
I didn't shout, no shouting.
Yeah.
I just walked out. And the reason I didn't shout is because I thought if I shout, I'm gonna cramp and I'm gonna fuck up.
Yeah,
So-
that's fair.
So I was like, no shouting, because I'm not cramping on this one. The last time I shouted, I cramped. I'm not cramping. So
Yeah, the cramping thing is always a tricky one. I think it's just the pacing, and I think this is what it's also the world stage. It's fast, it's intense,
And that was
the pressure is there.
Yeah, that was
this
was like a prime time flight. So last year was
exactly.
Last year there was 14 of us in the flight, which is the maximum amount. This year I think maybe 9 because they made it quicker. So this year it was quick, man. And I do actually think that hurt me for squats, but it probably helped with bench and deadlifts because I train quick anyway. But from where I'm fatigued and dehydrated and stuff like that, I feel like the quick turnaround for squats, my 292.5 should not have been that hard.
That score was a fight. I was going to ask you what motivated you doing that score, because you went through 3 stages of emotion there.
Fear, panic, like thinking that if I miss that lift, the comp's done. Comp's actually done. So okay, so should we just get into the comp now?
Let's get because that's what we're talking about.
Let's get into it.
All right, so let's get into the comp. All right, so cool. First of all, I'm heavy. Yeah, I'm heavy. I'm walking around. So the Euro Muscle show was about a month and a bit before this, maybe 2 months. I'm walking around at like 97. Yeah. So not the end of the world, but if I don't want to sit in a sauna for 4 hours like Christian, I'm gonna have to do something. See what I mean? So I get back home, and then between then and probably when I flew out to Worlds, I probably got down to say like 95.8, right? Then I do my gut cut, or at least attempt to, which probably ended up with me not eating enough calories at all. I probably just didn't get enough in. And then we're also doing a bit of water. So I managed to lose that weight. I wake up that morning, say like 93.7, I think. And then by weigh-ins, because the weigh-in was late, the weigh-in was at 5, which is another thing that was long. When you're comp day, waking up at say 8 in the morning, and you got to wait till 5 p.m., it's long, man. So
you're just trying to watch your weight.
Exactly. So go through the day and managed to lose the weight, but I weigh in now, and I still don't feel like I still didn't get my legs back under me. So the plan for squats going into the meet was 300. So because my training has indicated that I did a 285 double with room, probably could have eked out a 3rd rep. I did, like my squat was looking really good. But then as soon as I think my weight started coming down, even prior to the cut for the comp, like the gut cut, even just losing those 1 to 2 kilos, I felt my squatting not be there, right?
Okay.
And then, so we go into comp now, and even prior to when we got there, I say to Owen, I'm like, all right, I don't want to lose this comp before it's even started. So when it comes to this 3rd squat, maybe take like 2.5 less than you maybe think. And he's already on the same page because GB likes to do that anyway. For the most part, they'll go fairly conservative because there's no reason to lose those kilos if it's like 2.5 less. It's easier to make that up on a last deadlift than it is to miss a squat. Do you know what I mean? So we go there now, and so I do my warm-ups, they're feeling fine, but my 250 isn't as fast as it should be, my last warm-up. So I go out there, I do my 270. It's okay, but there's already a sticking point. So when there's already a sticking point on your first attempt, it's not looking good. So then I do my 285. And it looks good, but then still that sticking point. But the thing with a sticking point is it can look fast before and after, but when the weight increases,
past there,
no guarantee that you're getting past there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I go for the 292 now, which is already 7.5 below our plan, right? But I go for it. And prior to the competition, what was giving me sleepless nights was squat. Bench is not that hard. Deadlift is not that hard. Squats make you feel like you're going to die. So I was so nervous and scared, genuinely scared about squats. So I go on to do the squat. And in that moment, it was almost like an outer body experience because I feel like that moment felt like 10 years. I'm there with the bar on my back and I'm thinking like, what if I fail this? Like I might like the competition, and I just keep going. And I think like that might have been the hardest grind of that world. My first squat. That was outrageous. I genuinely don't, and also I don't know why I was not cooked after that. Because at Arnold, my squat was almost as hard as that, but not quite, and I was finished.
Aboniki, that's the answer.
That's good. No, but even mentally and physically, I was like, aside from
exhausted.
Cramps, I started cramping on my 2 and 2, but I was done after Arnold.
It also takes a while. Sometimes you need to get used to grinding. So the first time you experience a squat like that, your body is like, what's going on? But the second time, third time you're used to it, you can bounce back a lot quicker.
But now I know I can grind, because that should help me because absolutely, like I've met Brandon Jones, the guy that came second. We went for like dinner the next day. He came to like my Airbnb and that. Absolutely great guy. We could like laugh and joke about the competition and that. But if you look at his third squat, it doesn't look miles harder than mine, and he failed that. I feel like if he was maybe in a slightly different mental space, he could have pushed through that. But on my one, I was not letting that go. So that was every single gram I had on that day. So yeah, we're 7.5 below our plan, but Rico and Brandon both missed the squat. Also. So Rico missed his second on depth, which was a really harsh call when I look back at it in all honesty.
It was a harsh call.
It was a really harsh call. Probably should have got that, but stuff happens. And then Brandon missed his third, which was below his plan as well. So after this is when I think, you know what, I can win. Because bench had been going great in training, and I'd listened to your advice, Mo. I'd already put like 15 kilos, 10 kilos of my best gym bench, but now I was opening already above my best competition bench. My best competition bench was 177. I'm opening at 180. So we go into bench, and just a backstory for guys, like in terms of the guys I'm competing against. So again, I said it's Brandon Jones, it's Rico, and it's Aiden Roder. But Aiden Roder didn't have a good competition at all. He said he was sick. He was basically out of the race by the second squat. So with these guys, Brandon is a subtotal specialist. So huge squat, huge bench. And for our class, and these are top guys, the lowest of our deadlifts, right? Then Rico is just a total specialist. Really good squat, really good bench, really good deadlift, but he's not the best at any one lift. So he's still going to be pulling before me. And then Aiden Roder was a bigger squatter than me, but benched less. So we were going to probably be around the same if his day went to plan, but it didn't. So by second squats, it was already like Aiden was out of the picture. It was me, Brandon.
Yeah, it was basically Rico. Yeah, it was these three.
Yeah, me, Brandon, and Rico. So yeah, so both of them go significantly lower than they should have on squats because they missed their attempt. So then we go into bench, and again, I've made so much progress on my bench that I open above my competition max. I open with 180. It moves well, and this was the first time using that soft pad. You guys used to use the soft pad.
The Alico new pad. No, I haven't, not yet.
Yeah, it's not night and day. It's not even probably the Alico to the Rogue difference, but it's just softer. So
the Rogues are really nice. The Rogue is probably if you don't get a bench PB on the Rogue pad, you probably were not going to get a bench PB irrespective on any other day. So
yeah. So yeah, we do bench now. 180 moves well, but I'm still figuring out the pad. 187 moves well. 192, which is a 15 kilo competition PB, also moves well. Probably had 195. And then after this, all the other two guys, they all got their third benches as well. So I am 35 kilos behind Brandon, but sorry, I don't have body weight and I'm the lowest lot number, and I'm 20 kilos behind Rico. So that's where it is going into deadlifts. So deadlifts come around now, and Brandon goes 3 for 3, ends with 845. And that's the thing about being the first deadlifter out. You kind of have to go even semi-conservative, because if you miss, you're done. And you have to just hope and pray that the other guys don't pull something magical out the bag. So He goes, he does his 325, which is a competition PB for him, ends with 845, which he probably wasn't that happy about because he told me his plan going into the comp was 870. And bear man, he told 870. So, in all respect to him, I knew that wasn't happening, bro. I knew that wasn't happening. His last squat prior to the competition, his last squat prior to the competition was hard, which is not what you want a week out. Because now he went and failed either 2.5 or I think he failed 7.5. I think he did 325 1 week out and then failed 317 in the comp. So I already knew based off of that last squat it was not looking good, and I didn't even know at the time. But he also failed his.
It was also a very aggressive jump from the second to the third. I thought
from the first to the second. That was the problem for his first to second. He opened on 285 and jumped to 310 on squats.
Yeah.
Opened on 185 and jumped to 210 on bench.
Yeah.
Or 205. I mean 185 to 205. So it was 20 kilo jump on bench.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know this at the time. I hope you don't mind me say, but he also failed his last bench 1 week out as well.
Okay.
So it was just not looking good. Like that 870, I did not see happening. So I wasn't saying, but I knew that the top end of my plan going into it, mine was 860. That was if I did, well, at that time I still thought I could possibly squat 305, but it was 305, 195, 360 would have given me. Oh wait, actually no, is that 870? No, that's 860. That's 860. So that was the top of my plan. And obviously I didn't know I would have had more in deadlifts, but yeah. So we go into this now. So he's 35 kilo ahead, and then he ends with 845, and then Rico goes, and on his last pull he pulls to be 2.5 ahead. So if he would have got this, I would have to pull 363. Which I wish he would have got, because if I came out with that same presence of mind, 363 would have moved the same as 360.5, and I would have been an 800 pound puller.
There's always the future. They don't worry about little things.
But Rico misses his last deadlift, which I think guys were also saying was harsh, but I went back and looked at it. It was not harsh at all. Not at all. It was a clear ramp. It supports on the thighs, and that's after that you're done. So, but he's upset about that. But then it's my time. So I did my 320, I did my 347, and it's 360.5, 5 kilos over the world record. And you guys saw it moved.
What was going through your head on that final attempt, the third attempt? That you walking out, or you like with your headphones in and stuff? What? And was you?
I was calm.
Was this a scenario? Did you play this moment like outside of the gym, like on your way there, like on your way to work, or?
But that was my only way. That was my way to victory. That was going to be it. I squat and bench less than most of these guys. I'm going to have to win it on the last pull, unless they have absolute stinkers. And I only need to pull like 350. This was how it was always going to play out, and that I didn't want it to play out any other way. And it was almost beautiful the way that it played out, because everything worked almost in my favor. If those guys would have had worse days, then I wouldn't have been able to. So one thing I was also worried about was, all right, what if we all have stinkers and I only have to pull 350? I know I want this world record, but it's not going to get loaded if we don't need it.
They won't let you.
Exactly.
No, you need to win.
Even if it was 355, I need to win, and 356 is the world record, they would have 355, and I would have gone home pissed. So that's how it is. But it all worked out in my favor. I go out with 5 kilos over the world record. I was going to be happy with 356, but honestly, 360 was even better. Because breaking a world record by 5 kilos. And then, as I said to you guys, I was just calm. I was so calm going into that. And it was almost like bro, I can't lie to you, I'm not the most religious anymore, but it was like God came over me and just like calmed me down. It was mad. I went out. Maybe my parents were praying for me or something. I don't even know.
Always, man. You've got enough uncles and aunties too.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So that just came over me, man. And as I went out there, the lights, that's what I mean, because prior to the podcast, we're talking about the competition as a whole. It really felt like a moment, like it was like almost like an auditorium type thing, like where there's seats above you, lights shining in your face. I've got bad eyesight, so I can't see anyone anyway. So all my peoples were down at the bottom, but I had no idea where they were. So I'm just looking up there, and as I said to you, I wanted to, as I was saying in my vlog, I wanted to be able to go out there and also have fun, because also there's no guarantees in life. There's no guarantee that I make it back to Worlds again. Do you know what I mean? So I want to enjoy this moment. I want to live this moment. So I went out there, gestured to the crowd, went out there, no shouting because no cramping this time. And I pulled it. And afterwards, as I said that if I get a world record and become world champion, I'm doing a backflip. And my only worry in the backflip was like, what if I cramp midway through the backflip and land on my face?
I landed.
That would have been. That would have been.
It was.
It was
when I did Sheffield. It was when I can't remember. It was after my second squat, I believe. I jumped up in the air, and then my hamstring cramped in the air as soon as I landed.
There was a 120 plus that after his third deadlift celebrated, and then he did this.
Yeah.
I think his arm cramped, but it looks like he throws his wrist out by celebrating. He's like, he's shouting, screaming, it's like, ah, and then he goes up holding his wrist. It's so funny. It was like, so funny. But yeah, like that was my only worry. But yeah, went to plan. Then I just went on a mad one, shouting, screaming, I'm number one. I was on a mad one. Honestly, people have by and large been very like. Obviously, that was probably one of the biggest moments of this recent world. But obviously, you get the old heads that don't like that. Some guy was like, "Oh, you need to have respect for the platform."
Ignore that. It's a different.
No. If the IPF wasn't feeling it, they would not have it out the way they have.
Yeah.
I mean, because they also want to promote the sport as it's a sport with athletes. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's like if I would have landed on my face, then that would have been another story, and we would have seen the movie. I would have posted that, but yeah. But I don't fail backflips. That's like my party trick. It's not. I say to everyone, they're not hard to do. It's a physics thing. You go up. If your knee comes back, your body's turning over.
I can't in it. The problem is going up in it. You say if you go up, some people don't go up.
You don't have to go.
Some people go sideways.
Brother, there are fat guys that can do backflips. All you have to do is go up a couple inches, and then your knees come up, and your body will rotate. Boom.
I can't.
You got that. And I said it to my coach or someone. I said, now because of this, so me and Manson both did the backflips, yeah?
Yeah.
Now you're gonna get sub juniors deadlifting 130 kilos at Southeast
and
banging backflips. My coach already sent me one of his clients in the gym that is practicing his backflips. He's like, I need to be like Nathaniel.
It's gonna happen. From
his backflips don't look very good. So chances are if he tries to whip that out on the platform, he's failing. And that would be hilarious. But
it's like when Durance did the whole shush thing. It's when Durance did that, right? That went crazy. People doing it in comps, during training. It's the same thing. Everyone's gonna do backflips. The only difference,
like celebrations, that's sports. This is an iconic moment, you know.
That's what you want.
It is.
You want that, man.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the barrier to entry for a backflip is slightly higher, so we're gonna see some fails before we see some. But yeah. So
how come you're not gonna do the Euros? What's going on there?
All right, so I look at it as like, so what you guys are talking about as far as me with my followers and stuff like that, having to factor that stuff in. Let's just say if I was a boxer and I had a manager promoter, they would tell me to sack off Euros. Reason being, so I win Euros last year, I win British, and now I've won Worlds.
Do your campaign tour around.
So I'm saying
that's what you do now.
What is the benefit of doing Euros again? The only potential upside is maybe breaking the deadlift world record again, but is that going to go as crazy as the first time? No. And then beating Rico again, who I already beat. Now the downside is losing to Rico and almost invalidated my world's performance. So I just beat him on the biggest stage. Why go 5 weeks afterwards and have to do it again? Bear in mind, this is precisely how I injured myself last year. I did Worlds, had a little chest niggle, then had to go straight back into training basically about a week after. And then about 2-3 weeks after that, I injured my chest. And going into Euros, I had to do Euros with a just about recovered chest. So it just doesn't make any sense. The calendar being this close together also doesn't make any sense. But then I was speaking to someone else about it, and everybody has been in support of my not doing Euros decision. In all honesty, I should have said no when I got asked in the first place, but then I don't know how I was going to feel after Worlds. If I had a stinker and I wanted to, I would have wanted to do it. But you don't get to say no and then be like, actually, I want my place, because it don't work like that.
Yeah.
But luckily, Jason was understanding. I think if I say I had a stinker at Worlds and was just down in the dumps and said I don't want to do Euros, he might have been on me. But having won Worlds, got GB a medal, there was nothing Jason could really say to me. So I gave and now Timmy, you know Timmy, from UK, he's gonna
105,
do it.
yeah.
He's doing 120 actually.
Oh, he's going 120.
Another 120 challenger coming up.
Ah, he's a tall boy, to be fair, because I saw him.
He's not
with,
filled out at all. He weighs like 111,
yeah,
109 now.
yeah, I saw him with Joey Shaw, and I was like, oh yeah, these kids are tall.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're really
he's
another
cool.
120.
But yeah, he's gonna do it now, and that's obviously giving him an opportunity. This is only international he can do as a junior because this is the last year. So, and he was on the reserve list, so he wasn't sure if he was gonna do it. It's giving him an opportunity to do it, and I just feel like I've done it. Do you know what I mean? Like I've won it before. There's no like even look at Rico. Yeah, Rico's won Euros twice, and look at how devastated he was that he never won Worlds. I managed to do it. I won it. So. Do you know what I mean?
It's from an athlete point of view, it makes sense. Like realistically, now you've done the Worlds performance, you've had a good run. You're still brand new in the juniors. We will potentially touch on it, but potentially maybe a weight class move up. Let the body rest. You've literally done a powerlifting speed run in a year and a bit, right? You don't want to tempt fate and because one of the biggest worries for juniors is when they have a significant injury, they fall off the face of the earth. Because they're already in that junior bubble, and then they see the senior bubble and go, I'm injured, I'm far away, right? And now, like, what's the point of all of this? So you have great momentum right now. Preserve yourself. Health is wealth, right? Keep on running that, and then just get ready for 2025. Actually,
that's my plan. And who knows, man? You could even maybe I've not spoken to my coach about this at all, but could maybe see me at Open Nationals. Maybe, probably not, but it's there. And that will be playing to maybe the weight class that I do, and we can touch on that. But yeah, as I said, everybody I've spoke to has been in support of my decision. My coach Owen only pushes back slightly because it's kind of his job to make me be devil's advocate a little bit and show me both sides, you know. Yeah. But even he pushed back way more on the Arnold's juniors thing, which was legitimately a bad decision. And I take full responsibility for that. If anyone tries to put that on Owen, like, why did you let Nathaniel do Arnold's and juniors in 1 week? It was not his fault.
Arnold's, I was forced into the Arnold's too. So
yeah,
it was a good showcase. That's what I was trying to say.
Arnold's, it was fun, man. It was fun.
It was fun.
You had your like first 9 for 9 day in how long?
It was a long time.
So yeah, man, Arnold's good comp, man. Good, bro. When you have an international comp on your doorstep, mate,
might as well do it.
It's only Brum. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, good fun, man. But yeah, that's where we're at.
Okay. So now you have dropped hints here and there. Is there potential that we're gonna see you move from 93 to 105? Because I told you Shaft Arnold's what I think would best. But what are your thoughts?
Well, the thing is that I don't want to be one of these juniors that come and go, right? I want to be a top open guy. And backstory, all these times I'm talking about all these competitions I've done back to 2022, the entire time, I've not only been a 93 the entire time, I've been a heavy 93 the entire time. I've cut into every single one of my comps, every single one, from the beginning. So now when I see people in person now, they tell me that I've gained size. Jason almost got concerned because he saw Jason Coleman lives near me. He saw me outside of Lidl. I rocked over to Lidl in a little vest, yeah. I was probably like 97 kilos these times. He's like, you look huge, yeah. But he's like, bro, like he knows I was not on weight. So that's like I'm seeing, and also when it comes down to like my squatting, for example, I feel like it can almost be a little bit inconsistent because it's so dictated by where my weight's at. Okay. So all of these things together, plus I'm 21, I'm young. I probably still have growing I can do.
A lot.
Exactly. I feel like 105 is probably the best decision. And past that, people think that moving up makes things harder. Only initially. When you move, like look at Ade, yeah? Ade was a 74. Would he have been able to get to the level in terms of at the world stage where he's at now at 74? Probably not, because he didn't have the size, right? And even levers, leverages, now he's got more cushioning around his joints for squats, bench, etc. Got more muscle. So at 74s, it would have just held him back, especially when you have that potential to gain size. We're not talking about someone who is almost capped out at a certain weight class. When you have the potential to gain size, you're not, even look at Nonso. If Nonso stayed 105, there's no chance he would have been anywhere near where he's at now. Because he was like 110 cutting into 105. And now, within a year and a half of being a 120, he's already around about the open total record.
Yeah.
So moving up actually increases your potential for the most part, unless you've maxed out your muscle building capabilities and you just get fat.
But
So
just to put this in there, because I think so people don't get it twisted, moving up in the right way, because sometimes you get people where, let's say, you've maxed out your muscle capacities within the 93s or 83s, and then they move up, but they move up so aggressively that their muscle mass remains the same, the body weight has just increased. So
and
what you normally
change your
leverages,
yeah.
So it needs to,
so I'm not trying to do that.
Yeah, yeah.
So
you need to do it slowly with muscle mass and also with the primary aim of improving your recovery abilities.
Yeah. So that's the goal. In all likelihood, I move up to 105s. And luckily, I think one of the things that makes guys want to move up very fast is wanting to chase competitiveness, being able to be competitive straight away. However, at the junior level in the 105s, not to be cocky or anything, but I'm almost guaranteed a spot because this year I totaled more than our 105 at Worlds. Jack did 817.5. I did 845 at 193 and he did that 105. So next year going into juniors, I could stay the same weight, or obviously I'm moving up, so I might as well gain weight. I could be 99 kilos, 100 kilos.
Just coming out, you basically, you wouldn't hold yourself at that 97, 98 you're at now anymore. You just eat, feel comfortable, train with that, peak with that body weight. And see what a 97, 98 Nathaniel looks like.
Even not having to cut into a comp can make a big difference. Because I'll sleep better the night before. I won't be as dehydrated, as depleted. So I won't have that comp day kind of variance.
And you'll be more focused on the comp as opposed to like mentally thinking, shit, I need to drop this weight.
Exactly. The whole 3 days out prior to comp was just rubbish, man. And also it doesn't make the sport as fun, in my opinion. Like knowing you have to almost drain your body beforehand before you go and do an extremely strenuous sport, it's just long. And if you're at that very top level already and this is what you have to do to stay competitive, then fair enough. But when I'm young and I've got options, I feel like, and also, it's not like I get blown out the water by even the top 105 in the world for juniors. Anyway, by GL, I did 110.7. He did like 111 point something. So even as a pound for pound lifter, he's a bit ahead, but it's not crazy. So I don't even see that as like, oh, I can't get there. Even within a year, I'm not saying I'm going to be the best open 105 within a year, but on the junior level, I think I can get there. I think
ideally your subtotal should increase by a fair.
My subtotal should increase, and I don't plan on getting fat, so my conventional shouldn't go
Your
down.
conventional will be fine, man. Your arms are long enough. It's really, hopefully the weight goes to the legs and the calves, and then really there'll be no changes.
Brother, what's the likelihood it actually goes to my calves, bro? Listen, man. Listen, there's this misconception about calves. Everyone thinks big calves good. So I use Regan. You know Regan, 105.
They don't do anything. They don't do anything.
Use Regan. Yeah. Bro, have you I love that guy, yeah? But have you seen that guy try to run? When he runs back to Joey Flex, he runs in slow motion.
Does he?
He's so big. His calves are so big. When he runs, he was running in slow motion, bro.
Oh,
small calves, long tendon is how I could do that backflip and jump over the bar. You know what I mean? That's why.
Hey, but the only problem is, right?
And it's you, because Mo, you're the problem as well. You're one black guy with good calves. So you just like to flex that on everyone.
I train hard for that. I remember the first time I went in the barbershop, Jamaican guy. And he looked at me and said, "You've got the full package. You've got the calves. You've got the leg." And I was like, "Thank you very much, sir."
A black guy with good calves is few and far between. Few and far between.
But I just saw a picture. I was just saying, you don't want to get stuck in a position where I saw a picture from Listus and Bob.
Oh God!
And I was like, yeah, I wouldn't.
Into the group chat,
you see the quads?
He mobbed him. He mobbed him. And luckily, I've done pictures and videos next to Listus. I didn't get mobbed.
You need to know your angles.
I didn't get mobbed. I did know my angles, but I didn't get mobbed. I'll tell you that. Bob got mobbed. So, and Bob totals 1,000. So size and Bob's not a small. Sorry, I love Bob as well. Bob's not a small guy at all.
No.
Not
he looked tiny in that video.
Listus is the most impressive female I've ever seen in my life. Take all the steroid female bodybuilders out. Even include them, because even when you look at them, they don't look good. This still looks like a woman, but she's just my size. So it's just mad. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
But that's the thing. That's the thing. Even if you just focus on strength, yeah, your muscle mass might not crazy increase.
It will. So
In
one
certain
thing I
areas.
like to say is, I think powerlifting, especially for natural lifters, it's a good way to put on muscle mass because it's you're not when you do bodybuilding purely, a lot of people tend to do the bulking that bodybuilders on gear do.
Yeah,
And then they just get obese.
they get
And
fat.
then they kind of just end up in this round, squidgy face. Or they get stuck in this phase of being lean and
Yeah.
always cutting all the time. So they don't necessarily put on any actual muscle mass. They just have more vascularity the whole time.
Yeah.
With powerlifting, because your aim is to push training weight, you will build the best. If you want to talk about top tier natural bodybuilders, they're in a different league. They know what the fuck they're doing.
But it's like a Venn diagram. There is crossover in the middle, but at the extremes, because obviously your bodybuilding training, the number one thing that influences it is volume. That's number one, volume. And obviously volume is fatiguing. So when you're in a bodybuilding block or whatever, and you're pushing your volume, your top end strength probably isn't going to be there because you're so
It's gonna
fatigued.
be empty.
So there's going to have to be some interplay of that, and I don't necessarily mind that because you can usually that just ends up not decreasing your top end strength but masking it. So you might feel strong, you just feel tired.
Yeah.
And realistically, months out of comp, which is when you would be doing these bodybuilding blocks, you shouldn't be pushing top end crazy anyway, especially not with singles, let's say. So it should be fine for the most part anyway. I do like even myself, comparing myself to again some of my more like influencer friends who just focus on bodybuilding, especially in the last couple of years, I've been able to continue gaining size where a lot of them have plateaued. I don't just and that's even though bodybuilding training in theory is better than powerlifting training for gaining size. One thing that I think it is more than anything is just consistency, because where with powerlifting training, I might only be able to do 7 sets of biceps per week or whatever, or like 10 sets of lats, right? Where they can do, let's say, 20. If I do this every single week in, week out for an
It'll
entire
just stack
year,
up.
but they're falling off a bit, doing this, no offense, but starting high rocks and starting running and all these different influencer stuff, and then just falling out of love with the gym, they're not going to make progress. So even with powerlifting, even though it might not be completely optimal for bodybuilding, one thing I think it does do is just keep you there, keep you showing it and showing up. There's no time within the last year that I've just stopped training. Do you know what I mean? You're not just going to stop training. So yeah, consistency matters more than absolute optimization.
Absolutely. Yeah, like a top end powerlifter will look very different from a top end bodybuilder. But for the average Joe going to the gym, bear in mind if the technique is on point and they kind of know what they're doing with the right guidance, they will tend to put on a good amount of muscle mass, especially in the back area. The back and the legs. You've never seen the powerlifter with skinny legs.
No, and even myself, right? I know that I've gained like a good amount of muscle, but sometimes I feel like in a singlet I can look quite stringy. But I think part of that is down to where my muscle was held. Like I've got a really good chest, really good lats, and obviously really good like glutes, which does come out in a powerlifting singlet. And I get tons of comments and gifts. People have that Drake shaking ass, the cartoon Drake shaking ass gif. I've seen that on my stuff. That was mad. But those muscles that I just mentioned, are like chest, lats, bum, and obviously quads to a certain extent, quads a lot. But I've got good quads, but they're just extremely lean as well. So, like you see, I've got like striations in my quads. So where a lot of guys hold fat in their quads, it makes them look bigger. I haven't got that. But if you look at my quads, say when I'm doing a bench press, you see the side cut. When I'm doing a squat, you see striations. So I don't have the biggest legs, but they are like dense. But I still want to fill out and gain some more size because I don't like stringy.
You're 21, man, so you've got so much time.
So much time, bro.
So much time. Like for reference, I told this to as many 93s as I can. That I think have potential. It's when I was a 93, my total was fucking who knows, maybe in the 600s, right? But I did. Sorry. I was beyond mid. That's what people don't understand. It's like when a lot of people underestimate powerlifting, and I think that's where I was going to ask you. One thing I was going to ask you.
I was joking, by the way. I was actually joking, actually.
Nah.
I was actually joking.
I was going to say one of the benefits of powerlifting is the time, the consistency. If you stack up good training, because some people come into the sport and they'll look and go, oh, I'm not Nonto, or I'm not Nathaniel, or I'm not Joey, I'm not putting up 200 kilos progress in my first year of powerlifting. You don't have to. The benefit of powerlifting is you stack up over time. If you look at, I don't care about Rundell. I don't care about Bob. I don't care about Ross. I can't learn anything from those guys. The person I can learn is Tony. Yeah, I can learn from Tony because I can go and look at Tony's performance and go, that's 20 years of stacking, right? Even if I get a percentage of that, I know where I can go. So I think a lot of people need to look at that long-term progress and realize, hey, it's something that you can do for a long time. Now, if your goal is to be IPF World Champion and you want to achieve that in 8 years, then good luck. You know, you need to have the right cards for it, right? But if not, if you're an average person, you'll be able to surprise yourself in the amount of strength you can gain over a 6 to 8 year period, not looking at short-term 1 to 2 years.
I heard someone say like people overestimate what they can do in a month and underestimate what they can do in a year.
Exactly.
I mean, so people want to see that progress instantly, and it usually doesn't happen. Even when I started with Owen, for example, in the first 6 weeks, we put on like 17 kilos in my total because we did a comp after that. But then literally just after that next 6 weeks, so my best total before starting with Owen was 730. Then I qualified comp, we did 747. Then 6 weeks later, we do 780. Worlds we do 802, Euros 810, then Arnold's 812, and then this world's 845.5. So it's not always linear. Do you know what I mean? Between last Euros and Arnold's, I put 2.5 kilos in my total. So and then after that, that was what 33. So yeah.
Now, my final question, because thank you so much for being on the podcast, man. It's been a good experience, right? What would you have said has been key for that progress? Because obviously we know we had the juniors, we had the Arnold periods to now. What would you say you changed during your training or programming, whether it's lifestyle, recovery habits? What do you think has influenced your progress to get to this 845 that you had at the IPF World Championships?
Well, first thing, just not being complacent and actually focusing on my weak points. Like, I feel like, especially as a deadlift specialist, there can be an accepted kind of, I'm not that good at bench, which I think holds people back. Because if you just take that mentality out of it and actually work on what you're weak at, you'll be surprised what happened. Again, last year at Worlds, my bench was the 14th highest. This year, it was the 4th. So that's the amount of progress I was able to make in a year, just focusing on my bench press. So when it came to bench press, obviously I'm a longer arm bench presser. So the answer wasn't benching 4 or 5 times a week because that's just going to kill me. Obviously we focused on bench, get the reps in. I had to change my form to find a form that was comfortable for me because I tried, before I used to bench like a bodybuilder, kind of feet wide. I did have a really good arch, but my feet were wide and I would do like the push leg drive, which for me isn't the most optimal. Then I tried to go the ultra powerlifter way, which where like feet forward, soft touch, that kind of thing. That also didn't work for me. So then that was what I was trying going into Arnold's and Nationals. Then after that, I almost went back to the drawing board. I put my feet back kind of wide, but I did that plus a soft touch. So literally just in between those two. And that was perfect for me. And that within a couple of months, I was already at 195 kilo bench. Bear in mind, my best competition was 177, and then it was just keeping the momentum going from there. Then when it came to squats, I was like, bro, I just need more leg size. So me and Owen, he started trying to kill me with workouts. My leg work, my Saturday, like not SBD because I didn't do SBD about it. My Saturday squat deadlift session would be squats, deadlifts, belt squats. Then it would be like adductors, hamstring curls, and then Bulgarian split squats, and then leg raises. That would be what I would do after a big squat, and that would be what I would do after a squat and deadlift. So that's what we were trying to do, just gain the leg size. And then for deadlifts, it wasn't that I had a problem. I just needed to not be cooked. I just need to not be too fatigued. So we did up the intensity a bit on my secondary days, in the early stages, but then towards comp, pulled that back. The secondary days were easy. And then I finished off my final deadlift before comp at 335. Where in the past, when I was even weaker, I finished with 340, and I don't need to do that. So went a bit lighter beforehand, and then everything just kind of came together. And then, so I think you actually need to, you can't just become comfortable with what you're doing and what you think you're capable of. If you want to become the best, then if I was still benching in the 170s, I would not have been able to win this world because I would have been too far back and I would have to pull 370, 375. Absolutely. to win.
Yeah.
And that wasn't happening. I'd be, no offense, but I'd be an Enna where I'm 60 kilos back from Russ. Do you know what I'm saying? And that wasn't going to do it for me. So I knew I had the foundation. Like I said, I got a big chest, so and good triceps. So I have the foundations to be a good bench presser. Obviously, I got to overcome my arms, but at the end of the day, if you limit yourself to what you think you're capable of, then you're not going to make progress. So that was the number one thing, in all honesty.
Okay. And then Espen, do you have any questions before I ask my final one?
Man was just like, do you have any advice that, because obviously you've got a lot of people that look up to you, right? I feel like with your following, you've probably brought, I mean, you won't know specifically unless they DM you, right? But I'd be very intrigued to see how many people started powerlifting or just getting into the gym based on following your journey, right? From day one. It'll be interesting to see, like,
this one is an interesting one to touch on, yeah, because I'm in a group chat with a few people that wholeheartedly believe I'm wrong on this, but I'm going to bring this to you guys. I'm going to see what you think. So my point was that I probably should have, but this is what I'm saying now. My point is that I helped to make powerlifting mainstream in the UK, right? And this is where I'm coming from. So prior to ever doing my first powerlifting competition, I was already a mainstream fitness influencer. Even when Durance ever comes to podcast, they call me Mr. Gymshark. People call me Mr. Gymshark athlete. Everyone knows in 2022, some of Big Gymshark's biggest collaborations, activations, I was in. Francis Ngannou, Ashley Waters, Speed, all this stuff. Like people know me, just know me generally, right? Then when I start powerlifting, I brought all of that steam into powerlifting, culminating in the fact that my last Worlds YouTube video went trending on YouTube, which I think is the only powerlifting competition video that I've ever heard of to go trending on YouTube. I don't think Russ has done that. Maybe Larry Wills has done that. I don't know, but that's where I'm coming from. And now when kids are getting into powerlifting, they're not just thinking that they can do powerlifting and maybe get an SBD sponsorship. They're thinking they can become a Gymshark athlete, all this stuff. And then when we look at it, not from a consumer point of view, but from a brand's point of view, I've been a Gymshark athlete since 2020, and Gymshark didn't sponsor powerlifters too tough, especially in the UK. In the UK, I was the only one. And then from my precedent, you've got Gymshark sponsoring guys like Nojo, Listus, Joey, who I would say that Joey would have been successful with or without me. But in the early stages, I did also help to put him on and etc. And Joey's almost a different, because he's like I would say the first UK powerlifter that's almost gone like mainstream off of just powerlifting. But me is a different thing where I was already mainstream and I brought all of that steam into powerlifting. And then that's what, like, so for example, some kid turned to Jason, some sub-junior turned to Jason at Worlds and said to him that Nathaniel was the reason you've got so many sub-juniors and etc. And Jason kind of laughed it off and etc. But I'm not saying I'm taking full credit for this, right? But when I'm looking at it from a brand's point of view in how involved Gymshark is in powerlifting now, which wasn't just me. Getting junior nationals at Gymshark was a big thing also, and I had nothing to do with that. But from a brand's perspective, obviously, people don't realize that brands sometimes they need a precedent. They need like a blueprint to be like, okay, if we'd sponsor this guy, who could they kind of be like? They had that before with like the American guys with like David Lade. David Lade was the precedent. And then you get guys like Lex Little, Anthony Mantello, all of these guys who followed his precedent. It would be a lie to say that I was not the precedent for the UK because I got sponsored in 2020 before most of these guys even started content. So that is my point where as far as me, and also past that, I'm not kind of just known in the fitness industry. I'm also known a bit outside of that. I've got links with like mainstream guys, and that's where we say, like, for example, I'm Just Bait posting my deadlift. They've never done that before, but I know Ants, the guy that owns I'm Just Bait. Stormzy reposting my TikTok of powerlifting. That stuff doesn't happen. So I've got mainstream links, which is helping to bring that stuff into powerlifting and bring powerlifting there. So that's my point. I don't take full credit for it, but I do think that I have played a role in why powerlifting, especially amongst the youth. I'm not talking about the older guys. Especially the youth.
Yeah.
What do you guys say to that point?
You're going to get a lot of people, right? I mean, sorry, Mo, like you are going to get a lot of people, mainly the older lot, that's going to be like, oh, you know,
they
this
don't care
good for the sport. They don't care about all of
right?
that.
Yeah.
They don't understand. That's the thing. They don't understand the whole marketing side of things, right? They don't understand that this is going to be good for the sport in the long run because they're a lot older. They just really care about like, right, they just want to go in with the mentality of just competing and that's it. They don't care about what you guys can bring into the sport, the viewership,
and side note,
sponsors, all that.
Exactly. And side note, the number one pushback to that will be, no, it wasn't you, it was Russ. But this is my pushback to that. Yes, Russ is big and the biggest powerlifter, but people also don't realize, and I do because I'm there, like I'm at the Gymshark events, I'm there seeing the guys who consume fitness content in the UK, that UK guys pay a lot of attention now, especially to UK content. So if I was to meet Russ and I was to ask him, of his, 500,000 followers, what percentage of the UK? I would be shocked if it was probably more than 10 or 15%. Majority of his followers are probably in America. So to powerlifters in the UK, obviously Russ is like God, but general UK guys, Russ isn't going to be as big to them, A, because he's in America, and B, because he's a powerlifter. And yes, he's huge, but even think about when Russ was, say, at the peak of his powers, social media-wise, like getting hundreds of thousands of views on YouTube, 2019, 2020. There was no steam on powerlifting in the UK then. Like, as far as that juniors, like how it is now, it did not start then. So the only way, like where the timeline links up, is more or less around about when I started powerlifting. And again, I'm not taking full credit for that. But to say that in the UK, it wasn't me, it was Russ, in my opinion, doesn't make any sense.
I wouldn't. It's an interesting one. So I'll from my point of view, I would say the new generation of junior powerlifters are definitely making a massive surge on pushing us on social media right now. And in terms of getting the name of the sport out there, alongside whatever the federation is doing, but really you guys are trending on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube. You're pushing. Powerlifting is becoming more mainstream, and even influencers that would normally be classified as the influencer physique or bodybuilding things are now doing a deadlift or a squat.
Joey,
you know, so exactly.
that's why I give Joey his flowers, you know.
Yeah, so things like that are definitely blowing up. As to whether it's, to be honest with you, I want to say yes, and the only reason why I'd say yes, you guys will be very influential. That's you. I'll probably put Joey B in that category. Listus on the women's side also is pretty massive. I was in JD gyms. This is Wallsend, Newcastle. I'm not even talking about Newcastle City Centre, mate. We're in the ends of Newcastle, outside, Shire area. I walked into the gym, front desk. The lady looks at me, sees an SPD shirt, and she goes, "Oh, are you a powerlifter?" I was like, "Oh, yeah, I'm a powerlifter." She's like, "Oh, so are you like that Joey B guy on TikTok?" And I was like, "Yeah." They don't know Tony Cliff. They don't know Jones Kangamo. They don't know Joy Amani. They know the juniors who are pushing on social media. And she's like, "Oh, yeah, you do the same sport as Joey B." Bloody, bloody, asking questions like, "Oh, yeah, I've seen him on Twitter and everything."
Yeah.
And then she's told me herself, she started, like, she does a bit of bench also and a bit of deadlifts. So we are getting people getting interested based off what you guys are doing on the beginner level. Now, the question is, how do we leverage that into athletes to actually stay in the sport and compete regularly? Because you can get social media powerlifters, or you can get hobby
which
powerlifters.
Is what I basically was prior to starting powerlifting.
I
was a guy that used to get like so many views and stuff like that off of just doing PRs in the gym. And that's the thing. Again, like, I'm not saying I'm taking full credit for it, because I'm not going to be stupid, but I also think it would be silly to not look at it and be like,
no, absolutely not.
You guys know this. I was a big influence in the UK in my own right prior to ever doing powerlifting. I didn't need to do powerlifting, but I chose to do it, and I brought I've brought all of my fans and more, because I've grown in the time of doing powerlifting into it, and that I definitely think has helped it. Now, whether or not that has helped powerlifting to become get to the next level is a different question. But in terms of increasing its popularity and making it, bringing more mainstream, because a lot of people don't know what mainstream is. And a lot of powerlifters also aren't as tapped into like the mainstream scene, because they don't care about it. They don't care about, even my friends, like, I don't know if you guys even know who like James Beardwell is, or like guys like this Dave Trains. Like those are some of the biggest mainstream fitness influencers in the UK, and most powerlifters don't care about these guys. But those guys are way bigger than the powerlifter guys that we have in the UK. And that's just a fact, because powerlifting is still quite niche, and more people can buy into the kind of aesthetic stuff than powerlifting. That's just a fact.
Yeah.
So that's been what I was saying to them. That's why I wanted to get you guys' opinion on that, going off of Espin's question, because to some people, like when I asked Nonso, and there's another thing, if you ask Nonso some of his beginning videos, what he would do, he would post himself doing a deadlift and caption it, "I'm stronger than Nathaniel Messiah, Gymshark sponsor me." That's what Nonso used to do. He'll probably hate me for saying this, but that's it. You can find old videos of Nonso saying that.
Yeah.
So when I say this to Nonso, I said it to Nonso and said it to Manson. They were like, yeah. Like it was because when I said this in the first place, it wasn't even like a contentious, like a controversial point that I was trying to make. I just thought that was just like a no-brainer. But obviously, powerlifters that are more entrenched in powerlifting aren't going to see that as much, and that's
yeah.
why
And I think that's probably that's where you have this because most powerlifters aren't tapped into the mainstream. So just like you mentioned, when you went to IPF Worlds, people were still going up to exactly. There you go.
That's why, exactly. So like Hamza at that time had like 30,000 followers maybe, and was way bigger than me at IPF Worlds. If that doesn't show the disconnect, let's say, between like powerlifters and mainstream fitness, I don't know what will. Even the names that we mentioned, like Bob, Rondell, Perk, everybody in powerlifting knows who these guys are. Yeah. If you were to go to UK gyms in the UK, you do not know who either three of those guys are. I promise you.
Fair. Yeah.
So that's the disconnect. And obviously, we are getting to the point where powerlifter guys are becoming more mainstream. Obviously, the prototype is Russ. Russ is the most mainstream of them all. But there is also still a disconnect between different countries. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not as big in America as I am here.
Yeah, and I know I've seen quite a few Indian powerlifters
that huge
going off.
Nowhere else.
Yeah, they're going off really. It's an interesting one. I think globally as a sport, we are growing and becoming more influential. But obviously, it would just take more time from that merge between being a niche sport and being mainstream to happen. And then, even then, if it happens, it might not necessarily be a good thing because now you're just going to get hate from all sides.
Exactly. So, that wasn't what I was saying, and I wasn't saying on a world level either. I was specifically talking about in the UK, which I know well because of all of the events that I've been to, the Gymshark stuff, my protein stuff, where I'm seeing these guys on social media that are just names and faces in person. So I'm seeing it. So that was where I'm coming from there. But in all honesty, I think powerlifting has almost saved me because I don't know what I would be doing on social media now without it. So, especially having dropped out of uni, I'm extremely grateful for powerlifting and glad that I could bring some of the steam that I had from doing what I was doing into it, so that in order to help the sport grow, because I still think we have a long way to go, and I would like it to get to that point also.
That leads me to my last question for you, because you literally just said it. I was actually going to say it. What do you think other powerlifters need to do to help the sport grow? Whether it can be social media, where it can be more shit talking, where anything, Nathaniel, honestly, like, what do you think? Take away everything you're doing, right? Because obviously you've done a sick job in terms of your YouTube, TikToks, like Instagram, like the amount of views that you get is insane, right? In comparison to your standard powerlifter. So you're doing a great job. It doesn't necessarily mean that, I mean, there's only so much you can do, right? You can only do so much to the point where you're influencing a lot of young lifters to come in, try out the sport. But then whether they want to stay in that sport, that's on them. There's nothing more you can do. You know what? You're not a fucking babysitter, right? So you've done your part. What do you think other powerlifters in the UK should be doing in order to like help grow the sport, so it's not pretty much carried by yourself, let's just say, in terms of like views, in terms of like marketing wise?
First of all, people don't just fall in love with people for their list. People fall in love with people for their personalities. That's the number one thing. I think the number one thing that would help powerlifters get to the next level is getting their personalities across on social media, because this is a cross-sport thing. Like, it's not just powerlifting where this is a thing. If you look at the Olympics and say 100 meters, it's like it was Noah Lyles and everybody else, because Noah Lyles has a big social media and he talks a lot and all this stuff. So all of the narrative, even when Noah Lyles came second in the 200 meters, I don't think I saw Letziel Tobogo 200 meters first. I think the first thing I saw was Noah Lyles came second. So this is a cross thing where even people in more mainstream, we were talking about this actually in our group chat about the fact that if you look at actually me and Joey, there's in even some mainstream sports in the UK, there's not people with as big social medias, because it's still, the fact still remains that you still need to market yourself as a person in order to be marketable and actually get yourself and your sport to that next level. And it usually, like in terms of sports turning mainstream, it's either a mainstream person starts doing that sport, which I say for example, like I'm an example of that, or someone in that sport gets big enough that they become mainstream. And I would say Joey is an example of that. Both people help the sport out, and obviously more people are going to start in the more Joey. More people can follow the Joey prototype because the reality of someone getting big off of YouTube and social media with nothing to do with powerlifting now to start into powerlifting is just low. Like even when people ask me my YouTube journey, I'd like it's not replicatable because it's not like I intended for this to happen either. I posted a school video and I became an fitness influencer. It doesn't make sense. Do you understand? So that I would say the Joey prototype is probably the one, if you're a young powerlifter coming up, you should follow. And that's probably what I'd say. Get your personality out there, focus on your physique, because people also are gonna want people to look a certain way, and more people are gonna Joey's even overtaken me on Instagram followers recently. And I think a lot of that comes down to consistency, and he's got a crazy physique. So focus on your physique.
It's basically it's a shower business. That's what it is.
Say that again.
Do you know what a shower is?
A what?
A shower. Do you know what a shower is?
No.
A shower. My days, Nathaniel. What's going on?
Yoruba.
It's been It's been you've been an Instagram thought.
Yeah. Basically.
It's showing you physique.
Bro, I made one video.
That's it. That's what sells.
You know what I mean? That's you gotta do, man. You gotta do. But obviously within reason. Like I'm not talking. When it gets to the point of like self-degradation, then it's like, yo.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, as I said, you don't have to do anything crazy, but just getting your personality across, I would say would be the number one thing. Because again, number one, like I like SSJ Bob for his lifts, for example, but I also like his personality a lot, and that's probably what's going to make me watch his YouTube videos.
His YouTube videos, people find, his videos are very exciting. Yeah.
So
that's good.
Yeah.
Right. Hopefully people can learn from that and then fucking start doing it. So then this sport can be a lot bigger. So it's not being carried by Nathaniel as much. You know what I mean?
TikTok is a hard game though.
I ain't even saying all that, man. But no, this has been good though. I was looking forward to speaking to you guys though. I won't lie.
Yeah, honestly, appreciate you coming on, man. The real reason Durance couldn't come on is because he's a little bit heartbroken from Ade, innit? But we won't talk about that.
What do you mean, man?
He's got to know that it's not official.
He's got a kid. He's got a kid and wife, man.
Nah, I'm messing. I've been messaging him all day, annoying him as well, man.
Oh, my days. But yeah, it was an absolute pleasure to have you on, man.
Appreciate you coming on, bro.
Exactly. I'm very excited. From my side, I'm very excited for your journey as an athlete. I'm looking forward to maybe potentially see you going to the 105s. I think that would be an amazing blueprint, well and truly. And I'm also excited to see more juniors. What the juniors are doing right now is insane, and they're really pushing the standards. But I'm excited as what you guys are doing on the platform and also off the platform. We're pushing powerlifting on the social media side and getting your brand sponsorships, which honestly are massive. I mean, 2-3 years ago, powerlifters were sat down twiddling their thumbs trying to get a sponsorship for supplements. Now we're having athletes being reached out for multiple brands, and then we're also getting Gymshark, you know, and all these fitness brands. So things are moving in the right direction, and I think you guys are definitely pushing with that, pushing the social media standard, and it's very exciting to see. So hopefully we keep you guys in the sports for a long period of time. You look for ways to give back to the sport, not only via social media, but we're handling events, coaching, whatever it is, and then it's an exciting future together.
100%, man. Thank you guys for having me on.
Appreciate you, man. Take it easy, guys.
Appreciate this, man. See you guys later.
Yeah.
Peace.